Hello and welcome to the first of several tutorial videos on using stems, and specifically for this video and the next one or two we're going to be looking at using stems on the Traktor Kontrol S5. Now we've chosen the S5 because it's the most popular controller among our readers of people who are currently wanting to start using stems, and it's the one we get most questions about. And you know, the biggest question we're getting asked is, how do I get started? How do I get started with stems? I've bought an S5, I just want to work out what they're about. I just want to see, you know, kind of explore what's possible to do with them. Well, the first thing you need to do, of course, is get some stems. But what we found is that a lot of stems are in the kind of tech housey, kind of almost quite anonymous sounding musical genres. And you don't really want that when you're learning stems, because you want different styles and you want, you know, vocals, and you want kind of different types of vocals, and you basically want some contrasting stuff so that when you get them all into Traktor and onto your S5, you can do stuff that you can immediately think, yeah, you know, that's different. I've put a vocal from a real garagey house track onto a trance record, or I've put a rap onto a tech house song, and that's where the creativity is, in kind of mix and matching. Now, luckily, over the past few months, the amount of stems out there has increased, and there is some stuff out there which crosses genres. There's some more well-known stuff out there. One of the early criticisms was, there's nothing I know, you know, there's nothing I recognise. And because of that, it's now a good time to start experimenting. So before we go on to actually making stems, making sounds with stems on our Traktor S5 in the next tutorial, for the rest of this one, we're going to head over to the internet and I'm going to give you some tips on buying stems. Stemsmusic.com is a good place to start because they list the stores where stems are available, but don't stop there. You know, this is like the old crate digging days, pre-digital. There's not that many stems out there, and there might be some in places where they don't appear on these stores. So go look a little bit deeper than you might do normally. You might just uncover a gem. One place, one little tip at the time of recording anyway, is this site called Dubseed. It's in beta, but this is a place where it's like a marketplace for stems, quite an underground place for stems, and their play is quite interesting because it divides the stems up, so you can solo the bass, effects, pads and percussion, for instance, on this track, and all the other stems as well, so you can listen to the individual parts. This is actually encouraging you to treat stems as individual parts right from the very off, so this is quite an intriguing site. However, all that said, I'm going to go to one of my favourite places for buying music, which is TraxSource, and in their stems chart they have some featured stems here, and they have all the stems that are currently available, but also a top 100. So let's go to the top 100. It's always good to see charts and see what other people are playing, at least as a starting point. So what we're looking for here is stuff that's familiar to us, that's different. You know, if we're going to buy half a dozen tunes, let's make them different to each other so that when we mix them, you know, we can hear what we're doing and our audiences can hear what we're doing. We're definitely going to want some vocals, because vocals make your mixes instantly recognisable. And of course, vocals are the most distinctive part of most songs anyway, so having a few vocals will allow us to have more fun when we start messing around with our stems. So I had a quick peek earlier at this and I found half a dozen in here which I quite like. I'm going to give you a little play of them and tell you my thinking as well, which will hopefully help you when you come to trawl through stems on the sites that you like. So this is the first one that pricked my ears up. So it starts off with this kind of almost Black Eyed Peasy pop section, but then it breaks into something that you'll probably recognise around here. I reckon we can have some fun with that one. Also, kind of in the same kind of heading back a decade or two vibe, I found this track. There's a very famous soul-to-soul vocal on it. Again, it's very distinctive. It's something I think we can have a little bit of fun with. Right, okay, so there's a couple. So further down this chart, I found, as a contrast, I found this quite kind of trancey number. Kind of a classic extravaganza sounding, chicane sounding, trancey song. Keep an eye on the keys of your tunes when you're getting them. If you're only going to get half a dozen, just keep half an eye on the keys. Not always important, but if you're mixing vocals over the top of instrumentals, you know, we're going to want the keys to match. That said, I found a track which really won't matter at all, which is down here, because the vocal on this one, bass how low can you go, classic Public Enemy vocal, is spoken. So if I'm going to be mixing up stems and isolating that vocal, because it's spoken, it probably won't matter about the key on that one. So always good to have some kind of spoken vocal or something as well in your selection so that you don't have to worry about keeping it all harmonically matched. This is a classic from Jakarta, Joey Negro. It's called American Dream. If you don't recognise that riff, you'll probably recognise this one. Donnie Darko, I seem to recall. I might be wrong there. So I thought that'd be quite a good one. I'm deliberately picking out stuff which is familiar sounding here. You know, a lot of stems are pretty anonymous sounding, but I wanted to get stuff that's familiar, that's got vocals in it, so that we can have more fun. And when we do use these in our mixes, hopefully our audiences will notice. That said, I found a really kind of like dark and dirty track down here. Kind of tech housey thing that I really liked. Kind of reminded me of 5 in the morning at all-night raves many years ago, and I quite like this. So I'm going to throw this one in. Might sound good with that Public Enemy vocal over it from the one I played a second ago. We'll find out. So that's exactly what I want you to do. Do what I've just done. Head over to your favourite stores, do a bit of Googling, do a bit of digging around, find yourself just half a dozen stems. What I did before, the stuff you didn't see in that video, was I listened to, 100 stems and I picked 15, and then I listened again to that 15 and I narrowed it down to like 6, which I thought were pretty contrasting and which would be a bit of fun when we get them into Traktor ready to DJ with. Go and do that yourself, and in the next tutorial we'll look at getting those into the software and playing with them on the S5.